You have queued up the Roulette tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation recorded at the New York City Concert Hall, Roulette. You can hear thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's past and present and find news of upcoming events celebrating innovation and imagination at roulette.org. Aren't you curious?
Welcome to another episode of the Roulette Tapes. I'm Susan James. Pianist Matthew Shipp is hailed by critics and fans alike for his distinct style of playing and his innovative improvisations. In this episode, we'll hear samples of his work in solo concert and ensemble settings recorded at Roulette, as well as a track from his new CD, The Piano Equations. Matthew recently joined us by phone to discuss his Roulette performances. Let's listen.
Roulette is a great institution in New York music. I've been familiar with Roulette since I moved here in the early 80s when it was on West Broadway before it moved to Brooklyn. And Jim Staley, who runs Roulette, has always been very gracious to me. And from the very beginning, when I started performing in New York, he's always, given me a platform for my music there. And over the years, I think to me, the one great thing about Roulette is it kind of predates like the Knitting Factory and Ishi Project Room and a lot of other New York performance spaces, but it's always been kind of a melting pot with all aspects of kind of, New York new music. It's always been like, racially very open. I mean, you have the people from the Lower East Side jazz scene who tend to usually be Afro-American performing there, and people that you associate more with John Zorn's school and stuff like that. So it's always been kind of everybody gets a platform there, everybody gets elevated there, and it's always just been a very, very cool situation. I've always enjoyed performing there, both when it was on West Broadway, when it moved to Soho, and now in its present incarnation in Brooklyn. And they've always had great pianos also, which as a pianist means a lot to me when the venue cares enough about the performers to actually have good equipment and a good, playing situation as far as the mechanics of making the music. So it's always been a very positive thing in the New York music community. I've always been a very eclectic listener of music, both as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult. I attended University of Delaware for a couple of years, then I went to New England Conservatory. And, I've always been interested in kind of all music. I mean, I'm a jazz musician, and that's, kind of encoded in my DNA. And I have always, from the time I was a young kid, explored every aspect of jazz history and educated myself very early on all of it. But at the same time, music is music. As Duke Ellington always said, there's only two types of music, good and bad. So I've always been curious about everything. I grew up, actually, even though I'm a jazz musician, I grew up classically trained and very, very involved with classical music as a kid. So, I have a full education of that tradition, and I've always been interested in the many avenues of folk music as it relates to just how people live their lives. I mean, because that's the one thing about music, it's an alphabet for how societies function. I mean, it's much a part of a society as, whatever type of clothes they wear, however you walk down the street. It's all just kind of a language about that. And so just being curious about different people, you naturally end up curious about whatever type of music they generate. So as far as what I listen to, I listen to everything. I've performed many times at Roulette over the years, different ensembles and different things. I did do a concert a couple of years ago with Alan Lowe on sax, Kevin Ray on bass, and Gerald Cleaver on drums. That's a very interesting group because we all kind of come from different backgrounds and different places. Alan Lowe was a musicologist. He's not associated with the quote jazz avant-garde, which I am more associated with that. Kevin Ray plays with trombonist Frank Lacey and a couple straight ahead players. And I do have a long history with Gerald Cleaver and various bands, but that's an ensemble that gets together every once in a while of people from different backgrounds, and for whatever reason, it seems to work. We just recorded recently and will probably be released on ESP Records sometime in the near future, but that's what I call, not one of my main ensembles I'm involved in, but it's a side project that's done every once in a while, and it's fun every time it's done. I got called to be a substitute for Schlippenbach, the great German pianist who I think there were some passport problems or something, so he couldn't get in the country. And it was his trio with Evan Parker and Paul Linton, which, that trio tours a lot in Europe, and they're a known quantity. I was kind of nervous about that. Not nervous. I don't get nervous playing, but I was subbing for Schlippenbach in a trio that has a very extremely developed identity. And, I was concerned that a lot of fans that come out to hear that group want to hear Schlippenbach because, they're coming to hear that group. Now, I have a long history with Evan Parker. I've done a lot of duos with him, and I've, done extensive touring with Evan, but I had never played with Paul and Evan together. And that concert came off pretty well. I was pleasantly surprised that even though there were a lot of people there that were fans of that particular trio, and even if they might have been disappointed that Schlippenbach couldn't get in the country, they seemed to really enjoy what did go down that night. It felt very good on that level. But I play with Evan a lot, and that's playing with Evan Parker is one big part of my musical universe and part of my past history. One of my old solo piano albums was an album called Piano Sutra, and I did the album release concert at Roulette. And I love the piano there, so that was one great thing about it. I think Kathy Sepovia actually picked out that piano for Roulette. I'm not sure. But yeah, that was a solo piano concert there. It was done as a CD release concert, but usually by the time I do concerts for a CD of that sort, which has a heavy improvisational content to it, I've grown somewhere else, above where the music was on the CD. So, it's not as if I was playing things directly on the CD. It served as an album release concert for that CD. And I remember, feeling very inspired with the concert hall setting that Roulette seems to engender there. That was a very positive experience for me. The music is always mutating and growing on its own. It's kind of like, you do the work and it takes on a life of its own subconsciously. And sometimes, it's like a dream or something. It just happens on its own by nature. And, you're surprised at the turns that it takes. So it's hard for me to qualify in words how my music has changed over the years, other than that there is a constant growth process. And I feel, I know I'm always kind of on something a little different. And I feel the older I get, the more poetic I get. Whereas, at one point of my life, I was more interested in being a disruptor. Now, I'm just kind of interested in whatever poetry or lyricism kind of exists in my soul, and to articulate that on a piano. I have a new solo piano CD. It's called Piano Equation. It came out a couple months ago on a new label. The label is called Dow Forms. Yeah, this performance at Roulette is a Piano Equation release concert. Of course, the concert was supposed to be in June, around the time the CD came out, but that did not happen. So it's now, and the Piano Equations is an album of solo piano work of myself. It's kind of where I am now. There's not really much to say, because how can you quantify or qualify this music in words? The music is transcendental and dealing with the realm above written language, and that's what it is. Piano Equation is my current solo piano CD album, and this concert is to celebrate the Piano Equation. I basically love putting my head down and playing the piano. That's you can say a lot of things about music, but at the end of the day, the act of music is just that, the act of music. So, all the things you say around it or about it don't really get to like that moment in time when you're doing the actual sound production, the projection of your soul on an instrument. And, there's not really words for that. It's what it is.
Title track from Matthew Shipp's new CD, The Piano Equations. Matthew will return to Roulette for a live stream performance on Saturday, October 17th, 2020 as part of Roulette's virtual ball concert series. The Roulette Tapes is a production of Roulette Intermedium. These programs are made possible in part with support from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Grammy Museum. Our executive producer is David Weinstein. I'm Susan James. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation. This series is produced by Roulette Intermedium. You can find thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's archives and news of upcoming events at roulette.org.